If you want to get the details of the budget in terms of itemized details, the Budget and Appropriation Committee did a report which was discussed last week. So that's why you find the details in terms of the changes which have been summarized into this bill. The second point, Honorable Speaker, the fact that we are proposing some changes to the parastatals or these sagas does not mean that we will not use the law. I want to remind honorable members that, honorable members, you did pass a law called Privatization Act. And that act stipulates very clearly what needs to be done before a parastatal or a saga is either privatized or merged with another one. So the law is very clear, it will be followed. My comments on this supplementary bill, Honorable Speaker, are as follows. Last week we did discuss the budget appropriation report. Last week we also went through a committee of supply, which was a committee of the whole house. And this is just a summary of the things we discussed last week. So in short, Honorable Speaker, you will not find anything new in this bill, which was not captured in those other reports. But I want to pick 3 items which I think are important for Kenyans. One of them, Honorable Speaker, Kenyans need to note that the whole issue of GSS teachers who have been complaining that they are still on a temporary arrangement and they want to be permanent and pensionable, Honorable Speaker. Resources for that, the chair has confirmed we have those resources. So we want to encourage them that once this supplementary bill becomes an act of parliament, they should be able to be employed permanent and pensionable. The other matter, Honorable Speaker, which is critical is the issue of indans also in the Ministry of Health. Honorable Speaker, there has been a lot of lobbying from these indans that we need to factor in resources to have them employed also. In this supplementary bill, Honorable Speaker, there's a provision of 3.8 billion, which is expected to go towards that direction to ensure that these indans and the Ministry of Health are also employed, Honorable Speaker, on a permanent basis. So I thought it's important I say that. The other matter which is critical, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of A in A. Honorable Speaker, after we made a decision to scale down the budget because of the issues of the withdrawal of the finance bill, a lot of institutions have come up with proposals to have their ceiling for A in A improved or raised, Honorable Speaker. And what that means, Honorable Speaker, is that the whole area of A in A, in terms of the way we generate our resources, requires to be thoroughly checked so that we know what is the potential for each MDA so that we don't have areas where they collect more than they are reporting. In that case, we have what we call underreporting because it is very dangerous, Honorable Speaker. What it means is they will have more resources as compared to what we have appropriated for them. And that leads to either unnecessary expenditure or expenditure which is not controlled by Treasury. But, Honorable Speaker, 3 observations which I think is important as we move to the future. One of them, Honorable Speaker, is if you look at this supplementary bill, a lot of money has been reduced on development budget. And that's why I want to agree with Honorable CNN. Honorable Speaker, if we are not able to carry out economic activities in this country through development budget, then we cannot talk about economic growth. If we can't talk about economic growth, Honorable Speaker, it means issues of employment creation and all that. So this is an area, Honorable Speaker, we need to consider as a House, as we move through the future, how can we ensure that we have more money for development as opposed to more money for recurrent? In that case, we'll be helping the economy. The other matter, Honorable Speaker, which is critical, is the issue of budget deficits. I realized initially when we started discussing this, we were saying we'll be borrowing about 141 billion, Honorable Speaker. From this bill, this figure has moved up to 170 billion. What it says, Honorable Speaker, is that our appetite for borrowing still continues to be there, Honorable Speaker. And we have said very many times, this area of public debt is an area we really, seriously as a country, need to discuss and agree on the way forward. For example, the budget deficit has now moved from 3.8 to 4.3%. And it is obvious, Honorable Speaker, it is very difficult to develop a country through borrowing. I think time has come when we must look at our public debt and say, what do we want as Kenyans? I think Kenyans out there, they have told us that borrow less, see whether we can use our own resources. And what Kenyans have said, since they have said they don't want to be taxed more, what it means, Honorable Speaker, is can we look at our expenditure items and come up with a good prioritization of the expenditure items so that at the end of the day, Honorable Speaker, we only fund what's very key or what is very core for this country. And in that case, we'll be growing the economy, and Honorable Speaker will be helping this country. So as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, because those are the only things I wanted to say, our colleague and friend, Honorable Bandi, who we've worked together on these matters of budget for a long time, is the man who is supposed now to be dealing with this budget, Honorable Speaker. And I can tell you, Honorable Speaker, it is not going to be easy. So I just want to say, we wish him well. He has been having very good ideas together with me. Now he has the opportunity to implement what we have been saying should be implemented. I will be still reminding him what we have been saying every day so that we help this country move to the next level. What I want to appreciate most is now that we agree this side of this divide of the House has some brains which can help this country. We want now to make sure that we use this brain called Bandi so that we move Kenya to the next level. I'm convinced he has what it takes to move Kenya to the next level, but he has to implement what we have been discussing with him. For him to implement that, Honorable Speaker, he will require the political goodwill from the highest office. So I want to plead the highest office to provide that political goodwill. Because if it is not there, Honorable Speaker, we'll be going back to where we have always been. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Makali Mulu, before you, because you have some 1 or 2 minutes, you know you are a long-serving member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. And thank you for the compliments to our colleague, the Honorable John Badi. But Honorable Makali, inform the House something at page 910. This line R2044, now that you are in the Budget and Appropriations Committee, you see the last item there?
Yeah, last item is...
this Senate legislation and oversight, is it inclusive of that thing called Senate Oversight Fund, or it excludes it?
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the detailed report, we did agree that there was some money for Senate oversight. So this figure includes part of that money. But what we said as a committee, and it is probably documented, is that there should be a very clear framework on how this resource will be utilized. So that by having this framework, we'll also ensure that there is also accountability for the same resources. So in the past, they have used the money as part of the normal office operations. This time we are insisting there must be a very clear framework on how the resources will be used. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, so you are saying that fund that was being created is not there?
No, the money is there because, you know, it was not a separate fund. What they did is just to budget as part of the normal Senate resources. But we are saying now we need a very clear framework so that when the money is used by the senators, issues of accountability are not overlooked. That is the position of the Speaker.
And so the senators will be paid salary for legislation and oversight, and they'll also have a Senate oversight fund. Do you confirm that?
Yeah, okay, that should be the position.
Thank you. The Honorable Joanna Ngeno for purposes of balance, followed by the Honorable Francis Sige.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this particular opportunity to delve into this supplementary budget appropriation bill, number 2 of 2024. Speaker, we all understand that the bill, the process that we are handling today is a process which has gone through, I think it is the first budgetary appropriation that has gone through a lot of turmoil and feelings and of course pains based on some of the cuts, Mr. Speaker. So I just want to also weigh in, and first I want to say that I support in totality, despite the many challenges that are going to accompany this particular appropriation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the budget we had done previously was one of the most expensive budget, and of course we all understand that the only avenues we had so that that budget could go through was of course through funding by our own selves, and that is by taxing the people of this country. And of course, Mr. Speaker, the rest of what happened is just history. What I want to say, Mr. Speaker, is that I want to thank the chairman and the committee for the support they gave to the particular departmental committees on their particular presentations they made, and of course, the aligning of several needs by several departments, and of course, the needs of the country. Speaker, I want to state categorically that our Department for Housing, the Speaker, although there were some few adjustments on some of the allocations, we still believe that what has been passed, Mr. Speaker, will be enough to run the State Department and, of course, to do the affordable housing and institutional housings and, of course, hostels and the rest of the other infrastructural activities that are within that particular budgetary proposal. Mr. Speaker, we also believe that although there are so many cuts which were done on other areas, Mr. Speaker, we believe that when the economy of the country rises to the level that we can comfortably allocate money to various activities, then, Mr. Speaker, I think there is a time that we can have some of the activities which has been budgeted, appropriated correctly. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank also the, which of course most of the members here have talked about, the fact that we'll be confirming the 46 or 45,000 JSS teachers. This was a relief, Mr. Speaker, but of course you understand that confirming the 45 does not mean that we are now employing new ones. We still have the deficit that we always run. When you go to most of the schools, Mr. Speaker, especially the JSS, you'll realize that in every class we have maybe 2 or 3 teachers. And these are the teachers who are going to be teaching or who are teaching more than 10 subjects. So you can imagine how strained most of our schools are. Mr. Speaker, I'm also happy to note that among the issues which were added, Mr. Speaker, is a salary to the police. The police, Mr. Speaker, have been having, I think it is one of the areas where it is part of the area where it has never had an increment of salaries for quite some time. And I think this has contributed mostly to the issues that we normally have on the sector, because of the insecurities and of course also the laxity among us members of that particular sector, the corruption that is witnessed left, right, and center in most of the areas, Mr. Speaker. I think the increment of these salaries, Mr. Speaker, will go a long way to motivate our policemen so that they can actually do their work as is required. Mr. Speaker, there are also so many other things, Mr. Speaker, but my greatest elation, Mr. Speaker, is the reduction on areas where we think there has been a lot of wastages. Mr. Speaker, I've once said, Mr. Speaker, that if we really care about this country, and especially the fact that we cannot be collecting taxes from Kenyans painfully and spend them recklessly on the other side, Mr. Speaker, I've always said that let us collect money, let us collect taxes from our people, but let us also use the taxes that we are collecting from our people prudently so that the pain people go through while they are giving out those monies, Mr. Speaker, is commensurate to the work that is being done by the money that is collected. And I once said, and most of the members even of this House, Mr. Speaker, condemned me. I said, these unnecessary travels, both by this House, both by all the houses, both the Senate and the county assemblies, governors, even the members of the executive, Mr. Speaker, we reduce these travels. We can get a lot of money that can go towards development instead of what is normally utilized for. Mr. Speaker, if you look at some of the areas, like, for example, travels and hospitalities, how much money are we spending on hospitalities, Mr. Speaker? So that when you go to most of these offices, there are so many expensive things which are bought in those offices, and that has nothing to do with the delivery of services. Mr. Speaker, those are things which I would wish every now and then the committee that is concerned with the budget proposals and of course appropriation should look into and ensure that you cut completely all those areas where wastages normally occur. Mr. Speaker, look at the number of vehicles. I'm one of those proponents, Mr. Speaker, who I always thank the great president of this country, who is the third, I think it was the third president, Mheshimiwa Kibaki, for the austerity measures he actually introduced in the government, Mr. Speaker. I remember before he took office, most of the cabinet secretaries, PSS, and everybody else who was working with it, even the CEOs, were driving luxurious vehicles, fuel guzzlers. But the president introduced the use of small vehicles. And Mr. Speaker, I think this is something also that the current president should take into consideration, so that whatever wastage that we have in terms of vehicles, one vehicle is enough for wherever travels. One vehicle is enough for a cabinet secretary. One vehicle is enough for a PS, and not all these big vehicles, because where these people are traveling between their homes and the offices is a short distance, Mr. Speaker. So I think those are the areas that we can use austerity measures to reduce the cost and the wastage that we are spending on those particular areas. Mr. Speaker, look at the counties, Mr. Speaker, how much they are spending their monies. Mr. Speaker, every year we are sending over 350 billion to counties, Mr. Speaker. But when you go and try and search for developments that has been done by these monies, Mr. Speaker, most of the money that is sent to every county, Mr. Speaker, 80% goes for luxuries and all those that we call, all that we call maybe salaries, goes for travels, goes for expenditures in those recurrent expenditures, Mr. Speaker, so that you will only get around 20% going for development. Mr. Speaker, every year we are training this country to collect taxes. Every year those monies are sent to the counties. Every year those monies that are sent to the counties, Mr. Speaker, are spent recklessly on matters that does not bring anything to the table on the citizens that we are taxing. Mr. Speaker, I also wish, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what kind of amendment should be brought, Mr. Speaker, towards this allocation that is going towards counties, Mr. Speaker. When you look at the way sometimes some of the CDF expenditures are done, Mr. Speaker, around 90% goes for development, pure development. 10% only goes for recurrent and administration. Mr. Speaker, I wish we bring an amendment, and I wish the Senate should bring an amendment to the Counties Act, Mr. Speaker, so that whatever money is sent to the counties, Mr. Speaker, 80% should go for development. Only 20% should go for recurrent expenditure. Mr. Speaker, if we were to do that, every village, every ward, every constituency in this country, Mr. Speaker, will feel the development of this country. But if things remain the way it is right now, Mr. Speaker, I don't think there is going to be any meaningful development in the country on site. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, we must also, as a house, ensure that whatever we budget, the appropriation that we do to this in this house, Mr. Speaker, goes towards real development, roads, electricity, water, and of course, the bursaries, Mr. Speaker. When you look at how much we are appropriating every year in this house, Mr. Speaker, and then you go to the village and find there are no roads. Mr. Speaker, I think it is high time also we ensure that we ring fence some of the allocations towards roads in the
Chairman, 2 minutes.